Hey, now in this video I'm going to share with you how to craft a great lyric and go beneath the surface, not just keep at the surface level and say something very simplistic. How do we go a level deeper, explore what the lyric could say and how we can say it more creatively. Now my name's Danny Boyle, I'm the founder of Songwriters International. If you are a songwriter who wants to develop their craft, their lyrics, their melodies, their structures, everything songwriting, then you're in the right place. If you haven't already, please consider dropping us a subscribe, and in the description below this video I put together a completely free training where I share with you my entire songwriting process to how I write radio ready songs and pitch them to global artists. So if you want to learn more on that, you can go ahead and register for that in the description. Now I want to share with you some of the strategies and the best practices that I've found to be able to craft a great lyric. And a lot of the time as songwriters, we can stay on what I call the surface level, and we can say the lyric in the simplest way. For example, if we were going to say I love you in a song, a lot of the time a lyricist or a songwriter will just say I love you. But what if we actually want to go beneath the surface? How do we explore that lyric? How can we expand it and say it in a different way to the thousands of other songwriters that have already said that exact same message? So we're going to be exploring that, and I'm going to share with you exactly what I do to go beneath the surface. So I want to share with you a strategy and approach that I use, and it's called question and answers. Now it's very simplistic in how we use it, but it allows us to actually dig a little bit beneath the surface of the lyric. So let's say, for an example, we just said I love you, right? So if we use the question and answer technique here, what we would do is we would take the lyric, which is I love you, and we would go, well, what do we actually love about them? What makes us love them so much? What is it that they do? How do they look? Right? And we can start to list a load of things that we can start to expand on. So maybe we love their look, right? Well, what do we love about their particular look? Oh, it's their blonde hair, or it's their brown hair. Oh, it's their blue eyes. Okay, well, what else is blue? All right, if we're running down this theme, the ocean. Oh, okay, so now we could say, rather than I love you, your ocean eyes, right? It's a little bit beneath the surface. That's one example. Let's use another example, and I use this a lot for our students. If we were looking at the sky, and the sky was grey, right? What else could we relate back to the colour grey? What about concrete, right? So now we could, rather than saying the sky is grey, we could go the sky is concrete. Or we could also say we're looking up at the concrete. Right? And all we've done there is just changed it ever so slightly, but now that lyric hits a little bit heavier. Rather than it being a surface level lyric, the sky is grey, now we have we're looking up at the concrete. Right? It's that simple. Let's use another example for this, and let's say we have a lyric in our song and it's driving through the night. That is a very simplistic lyric, doesn't really tell us much. So what if we started to ask that lyric a question? Okay, where are we specifically driving to? Who is it we're driving to? How quickly are we driving? How many miles is it for us to get to that location? And you can start to answer these questions. So who are we driving to? We're driving back home, okay? Back home to who? Okay, our family home, right? How many miles away is it? Oh, it's 100 miles. Okay, so now we can start to sprinkle those little specific things into the lyric that's going to tell the listener far more about the story rather than just driving through the night, right? What about how fast are we going? Okay, I'm hitting the motorway, or I'm hitting the highway at 60. Rather than driving through the night, now I'm hitting the highway at 60, driving back to you, right? That kind of thing. And it's how we can go from here, which is a very simplistic lyric, and how we start to dig to see what else sits underneath that lyric. It's there. You just need to be able to actually uncover it. Now, a very important factor on this technique is that you need to first of all understand what you're trying to say. So in all the examples I'm sharing with you, in the example of I love you, or the sky is grey, or driving through the night, we know what we're trying to say. We have the lyric, we have an idea. So if you don't have an idea of what you're trying to say, you're going to struggle. So you need to first of all identify what you're trying to say. If it's I need you, I want you, I miss you, to give some examples of a love story. If it's about going back home, right? I'm going back home, right? We know what we're trying to say, and we have an idea of a lyric, but now we use the question and answer technique to actually start to uncover it that little bit more. Now, a lot of the time I find that this technique works particularly well in the verse, and the reason for that is the verse is where the story sits a lot of the time. The verse is where we can actually go a little bit deeper in the lyric. The verse is where we would say things like, I'm driving on the highway at 60, whereby the chorus is where we would strip it back and we would say things like, I love you, the sky is grey, or I'm driving through the night. The chorus is where the lyric is more simplistic, because that's meant to be the hooky part. It's meant to be the part that sits in the listener's head. So if we give them too much detail and we go far beneath the surface, and we're going to add a little bit of complexity to the lyric. But that's not to say we can't use this technique in the chorus. For sure we can. There is places where we would use it, but primarily we would use this example in a verse. So I've got the guitar out and I just want to give some real life examples. And you can do this solely as an exercise. You don't have to do it when you're writing a song. You could start to do it as an exercise just to get better at lyrical writing. So for this example, we're just going to use the idea of a love song, and it's expressing your feelings to a person, but you don't know how to tell them. You know what you want to tell them, but you don't know how to tell them. So here's example 1, and this is what I would call the surface level lyric. I need to tell you I love you. I need to tell you I do. But I just can't speak when near you. Oh, I don't know what to do. Oh. Now I quite like the opening line. I need to tell you I love you, yeah. I like that line, but I wasn't a big fan of when I try to talk, the words won't come out. What if we actually expand that a little bit more and we're like, okay, what do we associate with words? Well, the mouth. And maybe what about this idea of the words won't fall off the tip of my tongue, right? It's far more expressive, it's far more detailed. So let's try and fit that in. I need to tell you I love you, but every time that I do, or but every time that I try, I need to tell you I love you. I need to tell you I need to tell you I love you. But every time that I try, the words don't fall off the tip of my tongue, yeah. I need to tell you I love you, oh. But every time that I try, the words won't fall off the tip of my tongue, yeah. So that third line is just that line where we go a little bit deeper. So the first 2 lines are fairly simplistic, but then the words won't fall off the tip of my tongue. They evade me like an enemy, or what if we're saying that the words are my enemy? So as an example, I need to tell you I love you, oh, but every time that I try, the words evade, the words won't fall off the tip of my tongue. They feel like my enemy, oh. They are my worst enemy. Okay, so now that we've got the idea, I think I've got what I want to say. I need to tell you I love you, but every time that I try, the words won't fall off the tip of my tongue. They are my worst enemy. So there we go, we started to actually build on that, and we keep it simplistic for 2 lines, and then we say things like the words won't fall off the tip of my tongue. I really want to paint that picture of those words just not falling out, and that the words themselves are my worst enemy. Now of course we could build out that and we can start to add rhyme and make it flow a little bit better, but hopefully you can see how we've taken a lyric that's fairly simplistic and then we've started to expand on it. and pull it a little bit further, just based on the fact that we're trying to question the lyric. And then we're trying to get some answers out of it and dig a little bit deeper so we can go beneath the surface and then be able to create a better lyric. Now, there is times where you don't use this technique and you are going to say things very simplistically. You as the songwriter have to have that balance, and that's the art of songwriting itself, is knowing when you should be going far deeper and actually expanding that story, and where you just need to say things as they need to be said and delivered so that the listener really understands it. And that, like I say, is the art, and that's a craft over time. But when you've got techniques in your toolkit, shall we say, as a songwriter, and you can draw on them, then it's going to make finding those lyrics that are more creative and beneath the surface far easier than you have before. So go ahead, use this in your songwriting, go and question those lyrics, go and get the answers, start expanding on your story for your listeners and for yourself as a songwriter. If you haven't already, please go ahead, drop us a subscribe and drop a comment below for any other videos that you'd like to see. If you haven't already, you can go ahead and register for our free training as well, where I walk you through my entire 2-step process to songwriting and then pitching my songs to global artists. So go ahead, if you want to watch that, you can in the description below. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you over on another one.